Hey guys, I need a little help for a fellow streetwalker. On May 10th, 1996, Leon Lorales was murdered outside of Brownwood, Texas, and the case has never been solved. The investigation so far has only resulted in dead ends and bad leads, leading his family and friends struggling with the lack of information. Leon's niece and fellow streetwalker, Arlene Harbison, has set up a GoFundMe to help finance the hiring of a private investigator to help the family get some answers. The GoFundMe will also be used to create a memorial in Brownwood to bring attention to his case and ensure he is not forgotten. If you're a listener, you're a streetwalker. If you're a guest, you're a streetwalker. If you're a friend of the show, you're a streetwalker. And I like to think that the streetwalkers are a tight-knit community willing to help each other out. Let's help Arlene Harbison and her family get the answers they need and help close this awful, awful period in their lives. Join me in donating to the Justice for Leon Lorales Fund today. You can go to GoFundMe.com and search Leon Lorales, Laureles. Thanks, folks.
Hi, this is Martin Harris. Listen to Fascination Street podcast.
Will you say it in German?
Hier ist Martin Harris and das ist Fascination Street podcast.
Do it in Russian.
Это Martin Harris. Вы слушаете Fascination Street podcast.
I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street. Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is with actor Martin Harris. Martin Harris has been in such TV shows as Stranger Things, Better Call Saul, and The Last Ship, and he's been in movies such as The Gray Man, The Staircase, and the brand new movie that just came out in October, David O. Russell's star-studded 1930s murder mystery, Amsterdam. Everybody you've ever seen on screen is in this film, from Christian Bale to Margot Robbie, John David Washington, Timothy Olyphant, Robert DeNiro, Chris Rock, and Taylor Swift. That's right, I said Taylor Swift is acting in this film. In this episode, we get to know Martin. We talk about growing up in Poland and Germany, getting into the hard rock music scene in Europe, being in bands, getting into writing. He was an international sports writer, and then he specifically focused on the NBA, so much so that he wrote a best-selling book about the Los Angeles Lakers. And also he wrote a biography about LeBron James. We do talk about some of that, but then we talk about his acting, why he became an actor, some of the projects he's acted on, and some of the things he has coming up. And here's a special little tidbit. Martin voices the fan favorite Krueger on the video game series Call of Duty. So we talk about how much fun that was and some of the things that have happened because of all of these different projects. He's got a ton of stuff out there already. He's got so many things coming out in the future, including he's going to be in the final season of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Toward the end, I find out that Martin speaks a plethora of different languages, so I get him to do a funny little thing for me at the end, which is probably only funny to me, but there you go. I'm a crazy person. And this is my conversation with actor Martin Harris.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
Welcome to Fascination Street podcast, Martin Harris. How are you doing today, man?
Hi, good to see you. Good to hear from you.
It is 100% my pleasure. Martin, what I like to do is I like to start from the beginning and find out how people got to where they are from where they were. It sort of helps us understand who the heck you are. So where were you born and raised, man? Where'd you grow up?
So this is a little complicated. I was born in Wrocław, Poland, which is the western part of Poland. I spent a big portion of my childhood in Germany because my father is a professor of history of arts and he specializes in German art. And that led us to a lot of trips for an extended period of time to East Berlin and then some other places first in East Germany, then in West Germany. I was in high school partially in Germany too. So I learned German as a German but I also speak Polish as a Polish. Then I added a few more languages to my resume, so to speak.
Oh, wow. So supposedly on my mom's side, we are Polish, Czechoslovakian.
We will have to decide either you Czech or Slovakian. You know, those are two different countries now.
I know, but back then I think they were all one place.
Yeah.
All right. So you're growing up all over Europe, I guess.
Eastern Europe, yeah.
What did you want to be when you grew up? What was the plan, the goal?
Okay, so when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a storyteller, and I wanted to be a historian. I wanted to do what my dad did, but I loved like a Middle Ages history, battles, knights, and that kind of stuff. So I was reading a lot of books. As a matter of fact, when I was like 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, I was already reading scientific books about like Middle Ages, about Renaissance, and winning all the competitions in history. So I thought that will be my life. But then I discovered music, and I thought I'm going to be a rock star. You know, I had long hair, and I had my band, and I was spending time in music clubs. I was running around Polish rock bands, becoming friends with some of them, or like a mascot or whatever, because I was 14, 15, 16 years old, and spending every free time I had rehearsing with my band and singing with other bands. And that was it. I thought that will be my life. But somehow the band didn't develop to something bigger, and I had to have a job. So when I was 18, I think, I decided to write about music. The label that I was hoping will release our first album offered me to write reviews for them. So I did that. Then after 2 years of writing about music, and I didn't want to write about all kind of music, which is what is expected from music writers. I was classic rock, heavy metal, that type of a guy. So there were like limited options for me to make a career out of it, to make money out of it. I decided to write about sports because I always liked sports, you know. It was easy, and I did that, and I had a pretty good career in my 20s as a sports writer, sports broadcaster. When I turned 30, I felt like, you know what, that's not something I want to do for the rest of my life, and the artistic. So started knocking at my door internally, and I decided to give it a shot.
So before you were even 18, you were playing music clubs in bands like Army of Darkness, right?
Yeah.
And what kind of music was this? Like heavy metal, hardcore?
I would say what I wanted to do was like progressive metal, which is a combination of like my two favorite bands were Pink Floyd and Black Sabbath. So I wanted to play clean progressive sound. And the guys I had on the band, it was 1993, 1994. That was the time where grunge became super highly popular. And when it first happened, I didn't like it because I like those more conservative hard rock band or progressive rock band. And so I didn't like the dirty sounds, the using all this distortion sounds. And my guys wanted to play that way. And that led to several arguments about the direction of the band. And right now I'm a fan of Nirvana and Pearl Jam and all those guys. I like it. I like it a lot. But at the time, it wasn't my thing.
That makes sense. So then you started writing, and you're writing, you said reviews, like for albums or concerts, or what was it reviews for?
Well, first, because I was local in Wrocław, Poland, and obviously the capital of Poland is Warsaw. That's where those major media, at the time especially, because it was very centralized, that's where all those major media were placed. So I was mainly doing concerts or tours, or if I was able to get someone for an interview to talk a little bit, because I was like this annoying little kid that was, having a band and was asking questions, talking to other musicians, and just being around. And, a lot of them liked me actually, so I spent some time with them. So they would like to talk to me, and yeah, it was fun. I couldn't make a career out of it. It was more of an adventure, more of a lifestyle. When I was in high school, it didn't matter, but later it did matter. So I had to start doing something.
So then you got tired of that. Or there was limited opportunities?
No, it just was a very limited way for me to make a living out of it.
Sure. So then you transitioned into sports writing, international sports, right?
So soccer is the number one, definitely by far number one thing in not only Poland, but the whole of Europe. So I did that, but what made me stand out was basketball. I did like the NBA. I had a chance to be in high school with a bunch of kids who were super crazy about the NBA basketball, and they pulled me into this world. When I start doing something and it's part of my persona, so to speak, I do it obsessively. So I did my research. I started watching a lot. I started reading a lot. And I became a specialist in NBA basketball. I became one of the very few people who were so-called experts. And came to New York 1998 when I was 19 years old. Met Kobe Bryant at his first All-Star weekend. Did some interviews, got more people interested in my work, and I started publishing internationally at BBC, some magazines in Japan and stuff. And it was a very good life in terms of financially very good. I was traveling all the time, working as a reporter, reporting from events, reporting from games, doing interviews. But at some point, I just felt like creatively I hit the ceiling. I felt that there's nothing more I can really do. There's no growth for me. And I realized that this is just not something I was destined to do in my life. It was a good time when it lasted, but I wouldn't be able to do it for the rest of my life, or I'll be very miserable.
That makes sense. I feel like we have, a bunch of distinct chapters in our lives, and it sounds like so far those have been a couple of major chapters in your life. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Kobe Bryant, he gave you some advice that really helped you out. What was that advice?
Yeah, when I came here in 2007 for a couple of weeks to see if I want to make Los Angeles the next chapter of my life, because I was 30 and I felt like if I make a move, that's the moment to make a move. I started thinking, I got inspired. I went to see a play. Al Pacino was actually on stage. It was incredible. I got inspired by that. And I was watching more and more films. I was watching more and more TV, because up until I was like 29, 30, I wasn't watching anything. And then suddenly around 30, I started watching a lot. And I started like fantasizing about being part of this industry, So I had a conversation with Kobe Bryant after one of the games. It was against Seattle Supersonics, November 2007. And there was a long walk from the locker room to the parking lot in Staples Center. So we had a chance to talk, and I asked him, what you think I should do? I'm 30 years old. Should I stick to what I have and just play it safe? Or should I put everything like in a casino, like put all my chips in, move here and start in completely new career? And he said, what is your heart telling you? I said, my heart is telling me to try. He said, then always follow your heart. And I did. But still, in my first 10 years here, I was still doing a lot of different things. I wrote 2 books. I wrote a book about the Lakers. I started doing stand-up. I started, hosting shows at the Comedy Store, which also helped my development, Some other writing, So I wasn't fully focused on acting. And up until he passed away, and that was a big shock for me, because I spoke to Kobe 3 weeks before that, after not speaking for 3 years, because after he retired, we just, I was doing my thing. He was doing something else. He was with his family and doing his businesses. And then we had a chance to reconnect at Staples Center. I'll never forget that date. It was 29th of December, 2019. We had a chance to reconnect. It almost feels like it wasn't an accident, right? That it had to happen, that I had to say goodbye to him in a way, So that shocked me to the core what happened. And after that happened, I had 3 days of deep thinking, and I decided, you know what? Now it's time to just fully focus on acting, and that's it. And that's what I'm going to do from now on.
So you mentioned that you wrote 2 books, and one of them was about the Los Angeles Lakers. Why did you feel the need to write a book about the Lakers?
Because I've been around a lot. My first couple of years in LA, I would still go to almost every home game. I went to every single home game when they won the title, both years. And the year that they didn't win a title against the Celtics, I was around Kobe. I was around other guys, built friendships like with, Pau Gasol, Sasha Vujacic. When I got a little part on the Lakers show on HBO, the first guy who made a post under my post on my Instagram was Sasha Vujacic, as a matter of fact, which is funny, congratulating and saying that you were with us throughout the way, and yeah, that's true. I was. So because I was, doing this in my 20s, I felt like there were so many stories to tell. There were so many things I've been around. It inspired me to write a book that became a much different book in the process of writing, because it became a book not just about the Lakers, but it became a book about how America has changed throughout decades. And I found a theme for every decade and used Lakers as a main theme, but telling the story much deeper and much larger than just the Lakers.
What's the name of that book?
It's called The Golden History of Los Angeles Lakers.
No, rad. What was the other book called, and what was it about?
I did a biography of LeBron James.
Of LeBron James?
Yeah. Early in his career.
Like when he was in high school?
No, when he went to Miami Heat, I think after his first championship.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Did he have a chance to read that? Obviously, I'm sure he did before.
No. It was just in Europe, in Poland, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
But I did talk to him a couple of times. It was very nice. He's a very nice guy.
Cool.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
You know those popping phone handle things that you see on everyone's phones nowadays? Well, how would you like to put your logo on them? Does your podcast or band need new merch? Do you want to bring attention to your new book or film? Maybe you need something unique for your Patreon or crowdfunding campaign. Then visit thelogopop.com, where you can customize them with the logo of your podcast, band, business, art, school mascot, or whatever else you can think of. These are way more affordable than you may think at thelogopop.com. Mention where you heard this ad and get free shipping on your entire order. Remember, that's thelogopop.com to order your custom popping phone handles. That's thelogopop.com.
Let's get back into it.
So then, I guess you heeded Kobe's advice and you said, I'm going to put all my chips in. I'm going to be an actor. Basketball players have sort of somebody that they look up to and want to be like I want to be like Mike, like that. But who was your inspiration for your acting? Like, who did you look at on the screen and say, that's what I want to do? Like, who was it that made it click for you?
Well, I have to tell you, honestly, it changed with my progression and me being, more experienced and more having better understanding of what the career is and what the job is, what the profession is, what kind of skills, what kind of craft. So I would say when I grew up, I was a huge fan of James Bond movies, So for me, Sir Roger Moore was by far the biggest inspiration at the very beginning. And I still think he's the best James Bond of all time, in my opinion.
What?
Yeah, listen, Sean Connery is great too, but for me personally, Sir Roger Moore. No?
What is wrong with you, man? I'm just kidding.
Who's yours?
I grew up, I guess, watching both of them. The ones that came later, Timothy Dalton and Pierce Brosnan, they're fine. But you know what's really weird is I've never seen one with Daniel Craig. I've never seen a new James Bond movie. So I guess that says I really like the Sean and...
I like one of Daniel Craig movies a lot. I like Casino Royale. I think Casino Royale is a very good film. Very, very... I mean, all of them are good, none of them is bad. But I think Casino Royale is actually very, very, very good. But still, I would say all of Roger Moore films and some of the Sean Connery films I like better.
My mom, her favorite was Roger Moore, and then my dad's favorite was Sean Connery. So I guess I like them both.
You can't go wrong with either of them, I'll tell you that. So first was Sir Roger Moore, then it was Robert De Niro for sure. When I started thinking about becoming an actor, and the fact that I was able to work with Robert De Niro in Amsterdam is dream come true. It's incredible. It's insane. But talking about Roger Moore, I forgot one interesting story. So when I was still in Poland, when I was in media, I was, pretty influential writer at the time. And when I was 24, 25, I could pull some favors here and there. So when Roger Moore came to Warsaw for a meeting with, I think, the publishing company that they released his autobiography, they invited him and he, I think, signed 2 copies for people. I wasn't in Warsaw at that time, but I asked the PR person, I gave her a DVD of Live and Let Die and The Man with the Golden Gun. And when I came back, both were signed with a golden pen.
Oh,
from Martin. I still have that. So I still have that. Right now, it's one of the most iconic things I probably own. Roger Moore, then Robert De Niro. But I would say the more when I started working as an actor, I realized that I'm more of a character actor. And I became fans of people like Paul Giamatti, Michael Stuhlbarg, whom I met on the staircase, and I spoke with him for an hour. Very interesting story too. My first day on the staircase, I'm sitting with Sophie Turner, Odessa Young, and Patrick Schwarzenegger. And Odessa is reading a book. After that, I'm like, okay, the next day I'm going to bring a book myself, because she was telling how it helps her to focus. When she reads 2-3 pages before, doing the scene, it makes her more focused, it makes her more focused on the filming. So I decided that I'm going to get a book, but because I was living next to Georgia Tech, it was in Atlanta, next to Georgia Tech campus, the only bookstore they had was a college bookstore. So I went there, and 99% of books is technical stuff, how to operate a machine, for example. But I finally found one small, tiny book by Plato, and I took it to set, and I put it on my cast chair. And Michael Stuhlbarg calls me from the other end of the room, and he's like, Plato, I did it on Broadway. I did exactly this play, and we started having conversation for an hour. And I was, able to tell him that he was one of my heroes when I was studying acting, and he still is one of my heroes. So I would say people like Paul Giamatti, Michael Stuhlbarg, those are the type of characters. So the guy who plays Mike on Better Call Saul, those are the type of characters, the type of actors I feel like I could be in that group if it reached my ceiling.
Speaking of Mike Ehrmantraut from Better Call Saul, you got to be in Better Call Saul. In the short time that you've been acting, you've been in some really, really amazing things.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Don't thank me. You have earned every bit of it. Is there a particular role that you don't want to play? Like, do you you don't want to play, I don't know, a bad guy, or you don't want to play a kidnapper? Is there anything that you don't want to do?
Yeah. If I read the script and the script is really bad, I like to do that now. Because I've been in the world of stand-up. That's where I started, like the whole adventure, for a few years. Comedy, if it's a good comedy, it's a great comedy. Like in Amsterdam, whenever I look at Mike Myers, I think he's absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely amazing what he does in the film. And he is a great, great comedic actor. But there are some comedies or sitcoms that I'm watching and I'm like, this is terrible. So I don't want to be in like a bad comedy or like a bad horror film, or like a drama that makes no sense, Sometimes we can't control everything, but so far I was very lucky, I would say very, very, very lucky to work with some of the great filmmakers and on some of the great shows and great films. Not always in big parts, sometimes some bigger, some smaller, but on really great projects. And I would like to continue that route for sure. Because I've seen a couple of, older friend actors who got their break doing, some very, very strong projects. And then they got pulled into doing, they went for paychecks on some questionable films, let's say, and did a lot of those. And right now they kind of stuck in that mud, so that's something I don't want to do.
That makes sense. Don't want to take the wrong path.
Yeah. Because you want to work every day, of course, you do. But sometimes you have to think big picture, But you want to work every day. You want to work. And sometimes, your reps pulling, you want you to do this, want you to do that. And you have to think, like, what do you really want to do? It's like what Kobe told me. What is your heart telling you, It's not just about starting acting, but then later in your career, what is your heart telling you? Whenever I really want to be on something, somehow I'm able to project that energy into the universe, and it happens because I really wanted to be on Stranger Things. I really wanted to be. I was a big fan of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. I really wanted to work on, with Robert De Niro. I really wanted to work with Colin Firth, So, I mean, if you're specific with your goals, I think it can happen,
So one of the things that you just mentioned, Stranger Things, you were one of the prisoners alongside David Harbour. In one of the last episodes that has come out so far.
Three episodes.
I'm sorry, 3 of them. I know that there was probably a lot of acting against things that weren't there, because hopefully there wasn't really demogorgons and monsters right there with you on set. How is it different working against actors versus working against, I don't know, tennis balls or whatever?
No, it was actually an actor, very tall guy who was in a green suit. Just for the reference, he had also a thing coming out of his head with a ping pong ball at the end of it. So he was an actual actor, and we did all the movement with him, except of the final shots where people were on wires and thrown and pulled up and had their heads smashed. That was the stunt team. But other than that, we worked with an actual actor who was wearing the suit, and he was the Demogorgon. And it took actually a lot of time. That sequence that is only probably 10 seconds. It took, I believe, because I've been there for 2 months in Atlanta. It was March and April 2021. So we started, the first thing we did was a rehearsal for the fight scene with David, with Tom. We didn't have our uniforms on. We just went through the movement. So that was the whole day. And then we came back the next week and we started episode 5, and then we did episode 6. And like you said, there was a lot of, sitting around, standing around, even when you were in every single scene, sometimes, right there and, doing things, sometimes just in case. That was like 3 episodes, every single scene. I was working on it, right? You can't see me in every single beat, but you see me all kinds of scenes. So we finished with the big battle, of course. We started with a rehearsal for big battle, and we finished with big battle. So the big battle took 4 days, I think, or 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you're in The Gray Man with Ryan Gosling. You're in The Staircase with Colin Firth, Better Call Saul, Stranger Things, and now there was a movie that came out on October 7th in theaters everywhere. Tell me about your time working on Amsterdam. Everybody who's ever been on anything is in this movie.
Plus Taylor Swift.
There you go. Yeah, everybody plus all the actors in Hollywood plus Taylor Swift.
Who was absolutely amazing, by the way. I'm very impressed by her acting. I think she was lovely. I think she was great. I've seen the movie twice already, and I don't know why, but I have a feeling that it has changed from the New York premiere to LA premiere, the final cut. So it's a little bit different. I think so. Maybe I've missed a few things, but then I spoke with David's assistant right after the film, and he said most likely it did change. He was cutting, recutting, editing, re-editing, and he talked about it during the Q&A after the LA premiere. And I had the chance to talk to him after both of the premieres for a tiny little bit of time. Incredible honor. I was always impressed by David O. Russell and his vision. He's one of the great filmmakers of our times. He's one of the so-called auteurs. There are very few of them in the present cinema. An honor and a privilege to be part of this cast. Incredible. Whenever I feel like I'm a little stuck and I need inspiration and I need encouragement, I look at that. I have a photo in my phone of that call sheet from my final week on Amsterdam, and I look, who's on the call sheet, and I reassure myself that I'm in a good spot.
That's a really cool picture to motivate you. I like that.
Yeah.
David O. Russell, he's the guy who did Silver Linings Playbook, right?
And American Hustle, Three Kings, all kinds of stuff, yeah.
I guess he really likes to work with Robert De Niro, so that's a good thing. Did you get to work with Robert De Niro? Did you get a chance to speak with him?
I did speak at him in the film. I'll tell you that, because I'm not a great guy in the film. But I didn't want to bother him like in the private conversations. And he was at the premiere, but he had to leave because I believe he was scheduled to work the next day, 5 a.m. But still, nevertheless, an amazing honor. I talked to Christian Bale a little bit after the LA premiere. And I talked to Colin Camp, with whom I acted on set. And she's such a lovely lady. I talked to Michael Shannon a little bit in New York when I went for the premiere in New York. That's another example of a career that I mentioned: Michael Stuhlbarg, Paul Giamatti, Michael Shannon. I see myself in that group of actors, in terms of the roles I could be getting moving forward.
Now, you've done TV and you've done film and you've done stage.
Mm-hmm.
What are your favorite parts of each of those? What's your favorite part of being on the stage? What's your favorite part of being in a TV show? And what's your favorite part of being on film?
I still need to explore more the stage part of my crafts, because even going to New York twice this year, once I was working on the new season of Marvelous Miss Maisel that comes out next year, and I was able to stay in New York for a little bit. Then I went only for a premiere for a few days, but whenever I go to New York, the idea comes to my head that I would like to do some stage at some point, in New York. That would be amazing. You have to be in the moment. You can't redo your takes on stage. You have to be fully locked in. And I think it's part of my actual character. I don't like to do too many takes. Whenever I have tape auditions, I like to do it in 2-3 takes and be prepared and just locked in. Some people, it takes them an hour to just get into the character, and they like to do 30-40 takes. I had a friend of mine who I taped auditions with, and I had to stop doing that because I was exhausted after doing 30-40 takes for someone as a reader. It's just not a part of my personality, I guess. I like to spend more time preparing and then just do 2-3 takes, 4 takes. Of course, when you film and you work with a director who wants to do 50 takes, that's different. It's part of your job. But for like auditioning, yeah. And I believe that's the quality that would serve me well if I ever get a chance to be on stage, because, you get one take.
Nice. How did you become part of the Call of Duty video game?
Yeah, I have a voice agent, lovely Heather from Atlas Talent, and she got me some decent or great jobs in the last couple of years, and Call of Duty was one of them. And when I started, working on it, I was still in the process of just getting my first major credits. I think The Hunt and Call of Duty were the two things I did back to back, and that opened things up for me. But I didn't understand because I never played the game before, and I'm not a gamer. I just don't play any computer games or video games. I never had a console. I was never part of that culture. So to see the response I received from the fans of Call of Duty, that there's, for some of them is their favorite character of all time. People still messaging me if I'm part of the new Call of Duty. Every time Call of Duty comes out, and I was part of like 3 of them, and maybe I'll be part of the next one. I don't know. I can't tell you that. I'm not allowed. But, to see how many people actually care about that stuff, like how many people like to use the character you're voicing. It's incredible. It's incredible, like how big impact something like that can have on people.
I have to imagine that doing voiceover for a game where they get to be your character, right? So that means that you have to record lines for every eventuality. Was that like a super weird thing for you to just be recording all these weird ass lines? Because, if I'm playing your character, which I believe his name is Krueger, if I'm playing your character and I take a left, then whatever you're about to say is totally different than if I took a right. So was it just a crazy thing to get a hold of, to just have to say all these weird non sequiturs?
No, because every time I work with an actual director who is directing those sessions, so it's almost like working on a film or a TV show. It's just that you use your voice instead of your body, instead of your face. But you're precisely told, how to say things. You're like, you say that way, then he says, like, make it faster or make it stronger, or make it like more funny or more creepy, or accent on that instead of on this, and we do 2-3 takes and then you move on to the next word or next sentence, and it takes time. But it's unbelievable, that people play that game and then they send you photos of the costume they wear on Halloween as your character. I mean, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. It really is. It's a world. It's a community that I wasn't aware of until I did the Call of Duty. It's almost like an underworld in a way, it's a huge fan base. It's a lot of people who play those games, and they're very passionate about playing those games. And I respect it. It's great.
What was your reaction the first time somebody sent you a photo of them on Halloween dressed up as your character?
Some people keep sending me those messages, all the time. It was fun. Like somebody posted my voice lines. I think took all my voice lines from the game and posted it on YouTube, and it had like 3 million views.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And like hundreds of comments. So that's amazing. It's incredible because people don't see you. And it leads sometimes to very funny interactions. Like a friend of mine is a visual effects specialist, and he invited to a party. There was like a little party. He invited his CEO of the company, who is like, in charge of a pretty big company, and he is his boss. And we talk about different things from show business and projects, and he talks about what kind of projects he's doing. And then my friend mentioned that I'm the voice of Krueger on Call of Duty. And the guy looked at me and started kissing my forehead. It's my favorite character. And he started taking selfies. And so people don't see your face. They don't know your face. But once they find out that that's you, it's the reaction sometimes is surprising.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. That's really cool. So once again, in theaters everywhere, October 7th was David O. Russell's new star-studded movie. It's a 1930s mystery movie, right? Amsterdam?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get to dress up in some old 1930s costumery?
Yep.
No spoilers, right?
It's out there. I can tell you. I mean, I played a member of Bund, which was a Nazi organization in the United States. And there was a plot to kind of turn United States into Nazi sympathizing country. It's a real story. I don't know if everything is real, but some of it for sure is. So I'm a Nazi.
Careful where you will say that.
On the film, of course.
Oh, in the film.
Not the first time that happened to me. It happened to me 17 times already. So
17 times?
Yeah. 17 times I was a Nazi.
On film?
On film or TV show or a short film, yeah.
Wow. Typecast?
Even on stage. I played a Nazi in a Delusion. It's like an interactive horror theater in Los Angeles that is very popular. Started by Neil Patrick Harris back in the day. So yeah, I even did that.
Why do you think you are cast as a Nazi so often? Is it your accent?
Yeah, because I speak German. I guess that's why. And I kind of have that, as they say, Nordic, Scandinavian, because I play Scandinavian characters a lot too. So I just have that look, plus the accent, plus the language. I can speak German. Listen, I either play most of the time Germans or Russians, but I look more German, so I play Germans more often.
Oh, interesting. And also, you don't smile at all ever. So there's that.
Never.
I know that you might have some things that you can't talk about that will be coming out in the future.
Mm.
For instance, there may or may not be another Call of Duty video game that features you. There may or may not be another season of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel that you're in.
Yeah, that's the next season. Yeah, the next season is the final season. I'll be on it, but I can't tell you in what capacity, but I'll be on it, yeah.
Sure. Will you be speaking German?
I can tell you that.
All right. Oh, wow. So that's going to be the last season. What a heartbreak.
Yeah. They announced that. It's not the news. I think they wanted to do 5 seasons. The creators of the show, and it's such an amazing show. It's another, costume heavy, very fast paced. I was a big fan of the show, and it proves my theory that whenever I really put my mind into it, I want to be on that. It happens sooner or later. So, it's funny because I pretty much every show I was a big fan of, except of Cobra Kai, I got myself on. So I guess Cobra Kai, you're next. I would love to.
Oh my gosh. All right. I'll see what I can do.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you were a big fan of Stranger Things and Better Call Saul and Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and you somehow were able to get the universe to put you onto those shows.
And I was on the Lakers show, big fan of the Lakers, and I'm on the Lakers show, right?
There you go, and the Lakers. But you forgot to mention a big fan of Fascination Street podcast, and look, here you are.
Big fan of Fascination Street podcast, especially that it's the name of the song on one of my favorite albums of all time, which is The Cure, Disintegration. It's called Fascination Street. It's one of the songs.
It's one of the songs on what who is it?
The Cure.
I'm just messing with you. Everybody knows I love The Cure.
Listen, kids are listening to different music now. I don't know,
Yeah, but I'm not a kid. I appreciate that, though.
Okay. You look to me more like a Beyonce, Drake type of a guy, no?
Yeah, Beyonce and Drake are my cousins, so I can understand why you would think I look like them.
Drake, by the way, whom I met at the premiere in New York, is the producer of the film, of the Amsterdam film.
Oh, really?
Yes, he is, yeah.
Wow. So he's not mad at you because you're friends with Kobe and you wrote a book about LeBron? Because he's a huge Toronto fan.
Yeah, I think he doesn't know that about me. So, yeah.
Oh, well, I'll cut that out because I know he listens.
Yeah. And I like the Raptors. Listen, Raptors are a fun team.
Well, they were until I'm in San Antonio. So when Kawhi Leonard went over there and gave him a championship.
Okay. I feel you. You have enough championships. Come on.
Hey, you weren't saying that when Paul Gasol was here. Oh, wait. Yeah, you were. Martin, as we're heading out here, where can people find you on social media?
I'm only on Instagram pretty much. Martin_Harris LA.
All right. And before I let you go, is there anything we didn't talk about or I didn't ask you about that you specifically wanted to talk about today? Did I miss any of the highlights?
No, I think we did everything and more even, I appreciate you, having me on Fascination Street. I'm going to listen to it today.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Will you do me a favor? You said you speak German, and I don't know if I believe you. And you also said you speak Russian, and I don't know if I believe you.
Okay.
Will you say, this is Martin Harris, and you're listening to Fascination Street podcast, but will you say it in German?
Hier ist Martin Harris, and das ist Fascination Street podcast.
Wow, that sounded really cool. Do it in Russian. Do it in Russian.
Это Martin Harris. This слушайте Fascination Street podcast.
That's so crazy. Now do it in the Queen's English.
I can't do that.
How about in regular English?
Hi, this is Martin Harris. Listen to Fascination Street podcast.
That's so fantastic. I love it. What other languages do you speak?
7 more.
You do not speak 7 more languages.
Yeah, I do.
All right. Well, that's a lot. Why do you speak so many languages?
Because I knew that I have to have some skills that are going to sell me in this market, and most of the roles I'm getting is international roles. So the next step for me is to pick up the American accent. I'm going to start with the southern one, I think.
I hear that that's the easiest one to start with. That's what I hear.
No, it's just my look. I look more southern than regular.
Martin Harris, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day and your multilingual schedule to hang out and let us get to know you a little bit better on Fascination Street. I really appreciate it.
Dankeschön. Vielen Dank. Dziękuję.
Stop it. Once again, everybody go check it out. Amsterdam. It is directed and written by David O. Russell, Academy Award winner. star-studded. Everybody you've ever seen on screen is in this film, as well as Taylor Swift, and apparently she does a really good job. So go check that out everywhere. It's going to be amazing. Martin Harris, thank you for your time, and you have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2001 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is from the song Say My Name off the 2021 album Underdog Anthems, used with permission from Jack's Hollow. If you like the show, tell a friend, subscribe, and rate and review the show on iTunes and wherever else you download podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. All the episodes are available there as well. Check me out on Vero at Fascination Street Pod and TikTok at Fascination Street Pod. And again, thanks for listening.